Welcome to Business Amplified with host Kevin A. Dunlap.
This podcast is for small business owners aiming to amplify their enterprises.
Explore strategies to play a bigger game by becoming an author, public speaker, podcast host, or expanding your brand in other ways.
Elevate your business on Business Amplified.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Kevin Dunlap with Business Amplified, and today we're going to have another exciting guest on our show today. This is a gentleman that comes all the way from Texas in the United States. His name is Richard Garner, and I want to go and welcome him to the show. So, Richard, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, Richard, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What is it that you do, and why is it that you do it?
I am a personal trainer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. What I do is, obviously most people know what a personal trainer does. What I do differently is that I'm online. I work, I have my gym is now my home. I'm a previous gym owner, but during COVID, like a lot of people, we had to modify a little bit when things got locked down. And what I discovered was there were a lot of people that don't like working from home, don't like going to the gym, or can't go to the gym for whatever reason. There were times when they couldn't. And so I needed to provide an option for my clients at the time. And I actually had been thinking about doing some kind of a remote workout before, but back in the days when all we really had was Skype, it didn't seem very feasible to do that. And a lot of people weren't comfortable or familiar with the whole idea of doing something like this. But with when we had things locked down, Zoom became a household word and a tool. So very easy for people to get online and do that. So it was quick. I didn't lose any clients going over to Zoom. And then when it came time to open the gym back up again, at least half of my clients were like, I think I'm just going to keep on doing this, including my wife. She was, quit coming to the gym with me and started working out from home. There was just advantages of people being able to just get on at a moment's notice and be done with it and doing all of their setup and clean up from home, and not having to worry about going into the gym and feeling like they're either comparing themselves to anybody else or not knowing what to do. And of course, the expense of working out with a trainer can be very high every session. And so we're still doing group workouts, high intensity interval training. My motivation, though, I think it comes from a desire to remove obstacles from people, whatever their goals are. I spent 30 years in the IT industry doing computer support, really for that same reason. I thought, it made sense to me what computers were doing. I was able to fix a lot of problems. And so when people were in trouble and they couldn't do their job, whether it was an accounting, lawyer, whatever their job was, I could come and help them be successful in their careers by taking this obstacle out of their way, and they can move forward. And so after 30 years, when I decided I wanted to do something on my own and not work in that corporate world, and I didn't want to start over as a personal trainer, I thought, well, I'll just do my own gym, and I'll be able to help people take the physical health obstacles out of their way so that they can be their best, spouse, parent, business partner, employer, whatever it is that they're doing. Because, a lot of times we want to do certain things, but our health, our energy level, it just kind of gets in the way. So my desire to maintain my own health, for one, motivated me to stay fit and stay healthy. And I thought if I can do that with someone else, the same as I've been doing for 30 years in the IT world, then I'd be happy, feeling like I was making a difference in what I do, and enjoying working with other people. I'm kind of a people person anyway. I like working with people. And if I can help them, take that obstacle, reclaim their health out of the way, then I feel like I've made my world a little bit better place.
I do like the idea that you saw a problem when COVID hit. It's like, how can I still provide a service to my clients, because they still need to go through their exercise regimen, but because now they're at least in the first few months of COVID, almost nobody even left home, because when you get a mask up. I know where I was living in Las Vegas, even going to the grocery store, number one, all the shelves were picked clean, but secondly, I remember going to the grocery stores and they're only allowing 30 people in the store at one time. Right. So, when two people came out, because there was like a long line just to get into the store. So I get that, because I knew a couple of yoga studios that did the exact same thing that you did. Like I said, we still want to provide a service to our clients, but we can't meet in a public setting.
Yeah.
So the fact that you went virtual was to me a very great idea, especially to
Yeah.
maintain your business.
And when you're limited on what you can do, where you can go, finding a way to stay active is very important. There's only so much we can get stir crazy, stuck in our rooms, our cabins, So it was nice to be able to say I'm getting some physical activity, even though I'm not able to go to the gym or even to the park. Some people just weren't comfortable going outside and being around other people. So this gave me a chance. We're working out together, but we still have that barrier of, I'm not passing any germs across Zoom at all. So there's that comfort level there. And of course, working out with a mask is very difficult because it's restricting for your airways. So when you did go to the gym, everybody's covered up and worried about what you're doing, sweating on stuff, and so I don't have to worry about that kind of exchange of germs either. So for that kind of person who's doesn't like that environment, we can do all the sweating you want to at your own place and not have to worry about sharing it at all.
The whole idea of working out from home, I mean, it's been around for a while. Just to share with you, because I know we have not talked about this, but back in 2010, I started on a program called P90X by Beachbody.
Yeah.
And I ended up, that's an at-home workout. It's not virtual training. It was on DVDs.
Yeah.
But it was still there are 3 or 4 people on the screen and you're working out with them. And they're the ones that are already fit. And I remember when I started, this was in April or May of 2010. And I ended up from that May of 2010, in that 90 days, I ended up going from 240 pounds down to 180 pounds. I lost 60 pounds in 3 months.
Wow.
And having that convenience of just working out at home whenever whenever it fit my schedule was ideal. I mean, and it was life changing for me because I went from a double XL down to a medium. Then just from working out at home, just using bands and I did not need that much equipment.
Yeah.
So if you're going to the gym, in my opinion, you're spending all that time on the road. You're in that group of other people. Then you've got the public showers and driving back home. That can be that can be an inconvenience. So a great idea of doing something like that.
Yeah, I did the same thing. In fact, I worked out with Tony Horton before P90X was Power 90. So they had it was like this was on VCR before they did DVDs even. So probably back in the 90s even. But a big part of what he did was not just the exercise, because exercise really is what we do to strengthen our body, to build up our muscles and bones. But he also included that workbook for your nutrition. Now I don't know how closely I worked with it, but if we don't change our nutrition, then all of our health is based on just that exercise, that physical activity. That's going to wax and wane as our time allows us to work out. So what I try to do now with people is to not just worry about healthy movement, but also worry about their healthy nutrition, hydration, sleep, their mindset, and their environment. Kind of those 6 pillars of health, trying to make sure we're incorporating all of those so that if any one of those is not at 100%, the others are still there in place. And it doesn't require all that so much effort in one area either. Because if all you're doing is working out, you're going to be working out a lot. Really, most people get 300 to 400 calories burnt off during a good workout in a day, which is not a lot when you consider that could be one sandwich that they ate that day. So if we can combine healthy eating and healthy movement together, it's like a double whammy. And then the hydration and the rest and recovery that requires, this is now creating a healthy lifestyle. It's something that we can do moving forward, even when we're sick, even when we're on vacation, all the time.
So what makes you decide to go from being in the IT world to doing something completely different? 'Cause a lot of people, when they think of people in the IT, they think it's people drinking their soft drinks while eating a bag of chips while going away on a laptop or on a computer. So how did you make that transition from the IT world to the fitness world?
Yeah, you're right. Gyms are not typically full of nerds, and IT world is. But I think what helped me was it wasn't so different. Like I said, motivation-wise, it was very similar in that my desire was to help people remove obstacles from life. And whether I did it in a technical world or I did it in the physical world, for me, the motivation didn't change very much. But what helped me make that physical transition was that I was doing some of that already on the side. While I was in IT, In those 30 years I was doing that. I'm married, I have 3 kids. And so this was I was always looking for stuff I could do with my kids. And so I started out doing martial arts in 1995 with my 2 boys. And I did that for several years. And then of course, they decided to go do soccer and wrestling and other things. But I just kept on doing the martial arts. It was Taekwondo. It was a class we had at our church. And I thought, this is something I can do physically for me. It keeps me flexible, keeps me moving, and I can lead a group that helps me then get better. Because, you know, like anything else, if you teach something, it makes you look at something in a different way, and you can keep leveling up. So I did, and I'm still doing martial arts ever since then. And then after a couple of years, my daughter got at a stage where I wanted her to do it, and other girls and that were involved in our church wanted to exercise, but they're like, we don't want you hitting us, so you need to do something besides Taekwondo. So I started doing a boot camp class. And so basically I just kind of took my martial arts classes, and I took the Tony Horton's Power 90 classes, and I started doing a kind of a cardio Taekwondo thing. And it developed into a high intensity interval training class, which basically was what boot camps were all about. So I started leading boot camps at my church as well, and really enjoyed doing that. So it wasn't just, you know, IT and then switch over to the fitness world. It was kind of like one was my main thing and one was going on along the side. And after the funny thing about my IT was, what really motivated me there, or really excited me about that world, was that every 15 to 18 months, technology changes. It's probably faster now, but at the time, new software was coming out. Windows had come out, Windows 2, Windows 3, Windows 4, 2000, so on. So every 18 months, there's something new. And so I was always learning new things and keeping it fresh, and was really excited about it. But after 30 years, every 18 months, I got to learn something new. It had completely switched on me. And I got where as soon as I felt like I was really an expert at something new would come out. I was teaching classes at SMU for a while on Windows 2000, Windows 2002, and so on. And so I would get certified on something, and then they would change it, and that certification would be wasted. I'd have to start over again. So I realized this is not something I was going to be able to do, or wanted to do forever moving forward. And so and the larger the company I worked for, the more I end up being involved with a lot of what happens in the corporate world, mergers, takeovers and stuff. I worked for several companies that were bought up by other companies. And just like any other job or role, when there's duplication, someone's got to go. And so the last company I worked for, NCR here in Dallas, they had just finished building their new facility in Atlanta, and they were, you know, consolidating people there, and I didn't really want to move out there. So I decided, well, it's either go find another IT job or take this opportunity to do something that I really enjoy, my passion, which was fitness, and make that my career. So that's when I decided. It was, of course, I think that was probably about 2018, right before COVID. And I decided I was either gonna open my own dojo, or open my own computer support place, or open up a gym. And so I decided at that time, I've got a space here that's in my area that had been, you know, fitness related. I think it was like a Snap Fitness for a while, one of those places you kind of badge in, go do your own thing and leave, unmanned, just access to a facility. And before that, it was, I think they called it Play It Again Sports, you know, sports memorabilia stuff. So I'd already had in my community kind of a sports-minded place, but it was available for me to rent. So I rented that out, and it was going for about a year, building up my clientele. And then COVID came, and we had to close it and started going back down again. So that's really kind of how I got into committing full-time into the fitness world, and how eventually became doing online stuff, which I wouldn't have probably done on my own. I know that, like I said, that the concept was there. People have worked out forever, whether it was Tony Horton or Richard Simmons before him, or Jack LaLanne back in the 50s. Doing exercises remotely is not an unusual thing. The difference, though, is I try to still be that personal trainer with my clients. I'm not just doing recording, say, hey, do my recording, and on your own pace, and, you know, whenever you want to do it. I still have scheduled workouts. So there's that accountability there. You know, one of the things that people complain about the gym was, I can go whenever I want to. And as we know, anytime means no time. You know, it's like if you don't have an appointment to do something, you can always push it off to another day. So people were getting used to not working out, just driving by the gym, thinking I'm going to be there another time. So I've got these 5:30 a.m., 9 a.m., 5:30 p.m. workouts that I've scheduled with people. And if they miss it, yeah, I do have the recording. I record all my sessions like you do, and they're available if somebody wants to go on there. But if we work out during that scheduled time, I'm available to say, all right, here's our workout today. I know you get that shoulder issue. Let's modify this and do something a little bit different for you. And but I'm providing that encouragement instead of just having that talking head on the video saying, you can do this, you've got this. I'm saying, hey, that's a great movement there. I love your range of motion. Change your position on your foot, do a little bit of correction there. The thing that that a personal trainer will do with you, and then follow it up, throughout the week with, whether it's text messages or calling them or some other kind of accountability. I try to every couple of months do some kind of a challenge. So whether it's an ab challenge or a push-up challenge or some specific body part, that we're working on, so that we're progressing throughout the month to try to increase our rep count or our time personal best, and then have a little drawing or something at the end to make it more personal and engaging than just a recorded workout.
Well, and I like the fact that you're talking about that you make the workouts more personal, because like you said, on the videos, they're going to be more generic.
Yeah.
Because they're going to say, they'll be pumping you up and stuff, and they'll say, and this person's doing the modified version. Well, even the person doing the modified or whatever, they may not be doing it correctly. By you being there live, you can say, okay, hey, Kevin, I know you got this going on. Do your push-ups from your knees, and then you say, no, your form is not right. You stick your butt up too much in there. Let's work on that. Where somebody working out from home, if they start doing something incorrectly, if it's just watching a video, they could actually even end up even hurting themselves because they're doing it incorrectly.
Yeah, and that's the danger of either burnout or injury. Keeps people from pursuing their physical goals, because we see a lot of people doing these amazing tasks, whether we watch videos or watch sports and stuff. What we don't realize is the amount of pain and injury that occurs along the way, and recovery time. Even with professional athletes, they'll have an injury that they're going to be out for several months. I read recently that Jerry Rice, who's probably known as the greatest receiver of all time, he has one of the records for the quickest recovery from an ACL injury. Where some people, that's a career-ending injury. Most of them are going to be several months out. He was able to come back quicker than most, but he went through some seriously painful physical training, physical therapy to get back in shape again. And not everybody has that same mentality to do that, to put their body through that kind of work to get where they want to be. So they end up saying, well, I'm injured, I'm out for a while, and then all your work is just gone. And you lose all that progress you made from before. But having a personal trainer that can help you, one, try to avoid that injury, and then help you, if you do have an injury, work around that to keep you going. Because even if I've got a bad shoulder or a bad leg or something, I can still work the other parts of my body if you can work around that injury and try to build up some strength to help with that recovery.
For those people who are already working a day job, maybe they have a hobby, or maybe they have a passion, but they're not making much money from it, or maybe they're not making any money from it. How did was your process going from the IT world to the physical, to opening up your gym? Was that a very gradual process, or is that kind of like something that happened in just a few weeks or a few months?
Yeah, there's a whole lot of theories about what's the best way to do that. And, in the gym world, there definitely are chains. I had that option to try to align myself with another group, several different places. Orange Theory, Fit Body Boot Camp. There are a lot of chains that are out there that I could have just said, hey, I want to go that route. Here's my $50,000 or whatever, franchise fees that a lot of places will do, and then try to do what they're doing. And I didn't necessarily want to fit into anybody else's mold. So I ended up doing it my way, which is definitely the longer process. Because like a lot of business owners, what I wanted to do was make cupcakes, or I wanted to sell widgets or whatever. And I was really good at personal training, but I didn't know a whole lot about running a business. So there's definitely an educational process. What does it take to rent some space, and to get the insurance, and to hire employees, and to make sure you're fulfilling all the requirements that your city wants for you to have this business. So It was a long process. In fact, I had that gym. I was fortunate enough to only sign a 3-year lease. Most commercial real estate is 5 or 10-year leases. But and I didn't know. I'm working with a realtor, and we were able to get a 3-year lease. So really, that whole 3 years was an educational process. I don't know that I would ever call that gym as a successful business in itself, but it was a launching pad, and it gave me 3 years of working in that environment that I could then turn into an online business that I didn't. Now, of course, I'm a one-man show. I'm not hiring anybody at all, and I don't have the overhead of renting a space either. But I did get to experience that, and I have that understanding a little bit more that I would have had if I hadn't done that. It's kind of like when my kids went to college. I wanted them all to experience at least 1 year of dorm life. There's something about being away at college and having to learn not just the subjects that you're studying, but the social skills of dealing with people. That can be even more valuable in the business world. Is how are you going to be able to get along with people? And there's something about being, having that dorm experience that I wanted them to have. So now I've had that same running my own business, brick and mortar type business experience that I can use as I move forward with other business ventures of my own.
And that's so true, because when you're running a virtual business versus a brick and mortar, there are so many things you don't think about. Even like say when your kids go to college, there are so many things that they don't think about. They think about maybe their cell phone bill, their car payment, their insurance, but they don't think about the little things like toilet paper. They don't think about all these other incidentals, which do add up. And that's just part of life right there. If they, unless they learn those things, or like you going the brick and mortar route, realizing that, there's, you got your triple net leases, you got your utilities, you've got payroll, you've got insurance, you've got to pay, all these other things that are all factored in. While running a virtual business, a lot of that is taken away. But now you have other challenges and issues that you've got to overcome, like getting your name out there. How does somebody driving by that Orange Theory or whatever business it is, that becomes like in their mind. But now that you're in the virtual space, like, well, how do you attract those clients to you, and have them not only that, but have them think about working out from home is a preferable way of doing a workout versus going to an actual gym per se.
Yeah. And it's different. You're right. It's different, a different way of thinking for most people. When they think about their health, they think, I'm just going to join a gym. And it's so easy to do. $10 a month. All I got to do is sign up, but does it get you what you want? And that's kind of where it's incumbent to me to go out and help people, educate people on the value of doing something a little different like this. But boy, what an appreciation I have for the companies that I've worked for all they had to do to make it where I could just come to work, sit at my desk, and do something. There's a whole lot of structure that had to be built around that, and I'm sure it took many people many years starting from scratch. Because like a lot of companies, a lot of IT companies, they started out in someone's garage. They had a great idea, they did something on their own, and then they get investors and build. And it takes 10, 20, 50 years sometimes to build these businesses up. And here I am opening up my own gym, and I fully expected day one to be profitable. Like, people are going to be banging down the door to come work out with me, because I felt like what I did was going to be so unique and so helpful to them. But it doesn't matter how good you are if they don't know about you. And marketing plays such a big key to that. Getting the word out, getting people to see what you're doing, and kind of picture themselves doing that same thing. Say, yes, this could work for me, and I think it would be worthwhile. Here, take my money and work out with me. So that's kind of where I am now, trying to find my brand, I guess I would say, and make people realize that this is a good option for them to get to their goals, their health and wellness goals.
Okay. And I've got a friend of mine. She's in marketing as well, and at a previous a company that she worked for, when they were experiencing some I guess they were hemorrhaging on their, they weren't bringing the income that they were and wanted to bring in. And the first thing that they did was cut back on their marketing. Like, that is the last thing that you need to be doing, is because that's how you make your income.
Yeah.
So for those out there, I would say, if you're looking to try and grow your business, one of your first areas that you need to be looking at is investing in your marketing. I mean, would you agree with that, Richard?
Oh yeah, it's just basically, it's a funnel. what I do is at the end of the funnel. But if you cut off that flow into the funnel, then nothing's going to be there. It's like turning off the spigot. All right, we're saving money, but we're not getting any flow anymore. So yeah, there is no business if there's not a salesman, if there's not a marketing person out there to convince other people that this is what you need to do. And I know that sales and marketing sometimes has a kind of a bad image because they are very outgoing people, and they're trying to convince you of something that you may or may not need. But at the same time, all of us are doing that. If you're married, you're a salesperson, and you're trying to convince this person who you're going to live your life with, where we're going to eat, what are we going to do, where are we going to live, that kind of stuff. That's all sales. If you have kids, we're constantly trying to convince our kids to do something else. That's sales. Everything we do in life is convincing. Right now, I'm trying to sell people on the idea of working out in the world that I do. We're all salespeople. I read a book. I think it was Grant Cardone, Celery Sold, and it's probably 20 years old. But that was the biggest concept I pulled out of that, is that all of us are salespeople. It's not a dirty word. It's not a bad thing. In fact, the better you are at it, the more you accept that and embrace that, the better you're able to actually help people. Because most of us want to be helped, but most of us are reluctant to it. Change in itself sometimes is a scary thing. And so we're constantly putting our guard up and trying to keep anything from happening. But especially as a personal trainer, I've realized that without challenging ourselves physically and having that pain of recovery, our bodies don't change. And if they don't change, stagnation occurs, and that's not good for anything, whether it's our career or whether it's our health, whether it's our relationships. Stagnation leads to death. And so we need to change, and we need to challenge ourselves. And it gets kind of scary. And having some mentor with you, whether it's a business world or athletic world, a coach, makes it a little bit less scary. So, I'm the Sherpa trying to help people, climb up that mountain. I've been there, and I can show you what worked for me. If it doesn't work for you, well, let's tweak it a little bit to make it work for you. But at least you know that it's possible to get to the top of that mountain because someone else has done it before you.
Well, that is so well said about the Sherpa. Is that yes? If you're going to be climbing Mount Everest, that Sherpa's that person's probably already climbed the mountain 20 times already. So
Yeah.
I mean, and they're probably carrying half of your pack, and they're the ones that climbed the mountain to put up the ropes that you can climb. So you
Yeah.
should be listening to those people that have already been there, done that.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it all.
Yeah. And when we see professional athletes, we see what they do and it make it look so effortless, and we forget about the years and years and years of training it took to get to that point. And the same thing with a musician. I think I love music, but I've never been able to be dedicated enough to spend the time to learn to play an instrument. I've taken lessons before, but like, oh, that hurt my fingers to press that guitar lesson, or that guitar string. And I didn't want to get beyond that point to build up the calluses and build that muscle strength to play something, but I love music. So I'm just amazed when I see somebody do really well, and I try to appreciate the fact that it took a long time to get to that point, and I know it was a lot of repetition, a lot of boring time doing the same thing over and over and over again until it became an effortless thing that they could do really well.
I have a friend. He's now living in the Philippines, but back in Vegas, he had his own martial arts studio, and he mainly dealt with kids that are under high school or younger. And when they were competing, often his studio or his dojo would be the one that won. And the thing that he did that made him different was, I'm only going to teach you the basics. We're not going to do any of this fancy stuff, because the people who are trying to learn the fancy stuff don't really understand the basics all that well. And because that when they competed, these other ones are showboating, of their roundhouse kicks and stuff like that, while the guy that's doing the basics constantly won because they knew the basics. And and the basics are boring. They're going to be so boring. But the thing is, by you mastering the basics is one of in my opinion, one of the ways that you're going to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that's a famous quote of Vince Lombardi, who talked about every year he started a new season with the Green Bay Packers with, this is a football, we're going back to the basics. Never take for granted what we're built on. We're basically a foundational society. if you don't have a strong foundation, anything you build on top is just going to collapse. So we keep building that strength from up, and then we can get taller and taller. Everything we do was someone else taught us. The martial arts, I had an instructor, and at some point he was a new guy, and he had an instructor, and everybody's going to be building on top of that. And what I like best though about teaching, and you mentioned how most of his were kids, it definitely is that way. 80-20 typically is, the amount of kids compared to adults. But I try to make everything I do family friendly, because that's why I started with my kids. I want people to come in and feel like they can work out with their kids. But it's about 80% of them are students. But my biggest focus for them is I'm building confidence in them. It's not as much what kind of kick they can do, what kind of punch they can do, what kind of speed or accuracy they've got, but teaching them to have confidence in their own bodies. And again, that's another one of those obstacles. If they can have that, everything else they do in life is going to be easier, because that way they're not pulling themselves back. When we work out, we stretch because our muscles are constantly protecting themselves, they're contracting, and then it's hard for us to move when we're tight. And the same thing with our minds. If I believe I can do more, I'm stretching my brain with that confidence. I'm more willing to step out of my comfort zone and challenge myself to do new things, and make people feel like you don't have to be stuck in the same world, physically or mentally, psychologically. Stretch yourself a little bit. Expect it to hurt a little bit at first. But just, we're doing it a gradual thing. We're not trying to, again, break ourselves or burn ourselves out. We're slowly taking that rubber band or that balloon. I use that as an example. You try blowing up a balloon, it just hurts your jaw because it's so tight. So you stretch it out a little bit, blow it up, and then stretch it out, blow it up. The more you exercise your brain, your body, the more you can challenge it to do more and more and more. And then give it that time to recover, because that's where our strength comes from, not from doing the exercise. Exercise just breaks us down. But if we give ourselves the rest, the protein in our body, the hydration, and then it comes back stronger, and then we can stretch it further and then recover and stretch and recover. That's kind of that's my philosophy for life is challenge yourself to grow, and then give yourself the time to recover from that.
Okay. Now, for those people who are on the fence about starting following their own passion, starting their own business, what kind of advice would you give them?
Well, just the same advice I got before, and of course I didn't heed it, or I didn't really understand it completely. Is to give yourself time. They say most businesses fail within the first 3 to 5 years, and I don't think that because they're necessarily bad businesses. It's because people underestimate the amount of time it takes to learn all the different things you need to make a business grow. Obviously, working with a franchise or a mentor is going to mitigate some of that and shorten that time, but it's also very expensive. So it's if you've got the funds, you can kind of take some shortcuts, but there's no shortcut to experience. You have to just kind of learn a lot of that stuff. So give yourself time, give yourself a break, and not realize, just like I thought I was going to be successful out the box, and realizing things are always going to work out the way you want to, and see that as a good thing. So I've developed that desire in my world to see obstacles and failures, because I've learned that those obstacles and failures are growth and education and learning opportunities. So without them, I'm not going to get any better. So I encourage people to give themselves time and look for the opportunities to grow. And then, of course, obviously, just never quit. Don't give up. If you believe what you're doing is the right thing to do, then just keep on doing it until you're successful with it.
That's very well said. Because one of I think the very first show that we recorded for Business Amplified was a IT guy as well that decided he wanted to do his own business, but he bought into a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because the franchise already has a record or learning curve that's already been established.
Mm-hmm.
And in his particular business, from an IT guy to owning a t-shirt print shop, but he's completely outside of what you would think. Even like yourself, IT guy becomes a personal trainer. Like
Mm-hmm.
those two things you don't normally equate with each other. But the thing is, you can go the franchise route, you can go your own route, But the thing is, make sure that you do have some kind of coaching, do have some kind of mentorship, because this is a process that you're going to be learning a lot from. from and by having a mentorship of some sort, which definitely it could be a little bit expensive on the front end, but it's going to cut the learning curve down significantly.
Yeah, yeah. And I say that to a lot of my clients. I feel like, well, what can you give me that I can't do on my own? The biggest part of it is going to be on your own. When you work with a coach or a mentor, they're not going to do the work for you. All they're going to try to do is provide you that structure, that template to work within, and encourage you to do it. But you have to do it on your own. I'm not going to be there to slap food out of your mouth. You know, I can't do push-ups for you. I can't do the work. But as a mentor, I can provide you with structure. I know if you do this, this, and this, then you will succeed, right? Repetition over time produces results. So I provide the structure and provide the encouragement to keep you going. And then as you get to one level, there's always something else. In fact, that was something one of my mentors told me, was that you never get beyond problems. You just reach new problems. Always anticipate, as soon as you get through with a problem, know that there's going to be another problem there that you didn't know about. The area that I live in, I live in a city called Bedford, and we're part of a community called Hearst Euless Bedford, or HEB for short. So HEB community has a chamber of commerce that I'm a member of. And one of my favorite things to do with this chamber of commerce is that we go into the junior high schools and we speak to 7th graders specifically about their choices that are coming up. Here in 8th grade is where they make their selections for their high school classes, and those high school choices often dictate what they're going to do in college, which dictates their career and so on. So we think if we could talk to them at 7th grade and give them the idea about you have the ability to start making choices in your life that you haven't really had a whole lot coming up to that point. Really, up to here, you've been told where you're going to go to school, where you're going to live, what you're going to eat, what clothes you're going to wear. Very, very few choices. But your choices for your career don't have to be like, the next 50 years, you're going to sit behind a desk and be bored. It could be, well, what do you enjoy doing? I talk to these students, do you like to play with Legos? Well, maybe engineering or architecture is what you want to do. Do you like drawing? That's kind of where I started when I was in school. I take those aptitude tests. It was all about graphic design. So I thought I was going to be some, graphic design person, making logos or drawing kind of stuff for people. And I ended up getting a job. I was living in Houston at the time as doing digital maps, working for the gas company, doing drafting on the computer. And that opened up a door to the world of electronics. I didn't know anything about computers at the time. I was just drawing away on this computer. And in the back, they had the tapes and the bells and the whistles and the lights, and I thought that's pretty fascinating. So I went to look and see what was going on back there, and that opened up that door. So when I talk to these 7th graders, I tell them, what you're going to do, and at least half of the people in this room, what you're going to do is a job that doesn't even exist yet, using a technology that hasn't been invented yet to solve problems that don't even exist yet. So we need to always be prepared for something new, because if you talk to your parents, what they were doing when they were in 7th grade had nothing to do with the internet, had nothing to do with Wi-Fi, had nothing. Cell phones, cell phones have been around since 73 or something. But what we take for granted to carry around in our pocket, when your parents were your age, they didn't have that access. So just imagine how different things are going to be as they get into that age of working into the workforce. So the same for us, for our careers. We have to be open to opportunities that we may not be aware of in the current situation. That friend of yours that opened up a t-shirt shop probably never anticipated that being there. But when you move forward into the business world, new opportunities present themselves. So it could be something completely different. But we need to be willing to take that step forward, even if there's no guarantee of success, because there isn't. Nobody has that guarantee. The only guarantee of failure, though, is not taking that step. We can guarantee failure by not trying, but we can't guarantee success unless we take a step forward. But as long as we're open up to opportunities, there's plenty out there for us to do.
Well, and that is very well said, because you're talking about, I think back when I was in 7th grade or 8th grade, I had no idea, what I wanted to do. If anything, I wanted to become an astronomer. And then, because life does happen to us all, and a lot of things that we'll go down a whole bunch of different paths that we never even fathomed, maybe even 1 or 2 years prior. At the time of this recording, about, let's call it a year ago at this time, I was just being introduced to the world of AI. And now AI is part of my everyday life. And I can only think about, what's going to happen in 2 years from now, in 3 years from now, in 5 years from now. And the people that are graduating high school, and all the millennials and Gen Zs or whatever you want to call them, um, the challenges that they're going to be having is going to be so much different than us. I mean, I can imagine right now, 10 years from now, we're talking about having this problem because we only have one robot that's working in our house. I mean, we have no idea what the future holds.
Yeah, really, even back as far back as the 50s, the idea of flying cars has been out there, the Jetsons, the whole idea. But there's never really been a concept that would work. And we're getting close to that with drones. That technology of being able to use something like a drone to lift and to doing personal vehicles along those lines is definitely a possibility. So I know it's been around for a long time, but I think within the next generation, we'll probably see personal transportation, in another level, literally, flying.
The cars like in Back to the Future, or let's go to one of my favorite movies, The Fifth Element. That's going to become that's going to be commonplace.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about that. And then what does that open up? When we go from being a single level, society to being multi-level, people still being on the ground, still being in the air, and what that provides to us, technology-wise, transportation-wise. It's always fun to work with, like I said, the next generation, talking to the kids about what the possibility is, because then it goes back to my personal desire is, am I giving something back to my community? Physical ability with Taekwondo, or their future with challenging them to make good choices, or whether I'm helping an older person. And I typically work, as far as remote training, it's going to be the 40, 50, 60-year-old. It's going to be the older adult, because they're the ones that are least comfortable going into the gym, that are full of these fit, gorgeous 20, 30, 40-year-old younger bodies. So I'm at my body's never going to be what it was, so I'm just going to have to learn to live with it. That may be true, that we are never going to be like we were when we were 20 or 30-year-olds, but we are going to be the best 40, 50, 60-year-olds that we can be if we are intentional about it. So I still want to give hope to the older adults just as much as I do with the younger kids.
Well, definitely, thank you for sharing that with us. As we're about to wrap up, if somebody wanted to learn more about your fitness programs and working out from home, because obviously if they're doing this virtually, they don't have to live in the Dallas area. They could live somewhere else. They could even live in another country, as far as you care. What is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, I have, of course, I have an email address, rmgarnerus@att.net is my personal email address. And I do most of my stuff on Facebook, because still, again, when we're talking to 40, 50, 6-year-olds, they're still on Facebook. I haven't gone out to TikTok or other social media platforms, but my Facebook page is BT Fit Online. Facebook is at facebook.com/BT Fit Online is my Facebook page. But I also, you can find me, Richard Garner, as a personal trainer. But what I try to do is I have an online health assessment that I would sit down with people, or I would send to them to do on their own. It's free. And what it does is it helps you on your own to say, this is kind of where I am. And then if you want to dream a little bit, this is where I'd like to be. So that then I can sit down with you at some point and say, how can we get you from point A to point B? And we can kind of connect those dots. So doing a health assessment is the ultimate goal for me, to try to help you out. And then we just decide whether we want to move forward from there. Whether it's the fitness, the nutrition, the other elements of health that I can help you with. But if getting a hold of me initially is via email or those Facebook pages.
We heard what Richard just said right there. So this is also going to be down in the show notes. So if you didn't fully get it, so make sure you check out the show notes to be able to get a hold of Richard. Now, Richard, before we go, any last thoughts that you'd like to share before we go?
Well, just to be encouraged. I'm a very positive person. I try to think about, even as I said, I anticipate bad things happening, difficult situations in life. because I know they're going to happen anyway. So no point in me trying to run away from them or avoid them, but try to take those and then turn them into something positive. How can I learn from this difficult situation, from this otherwise tragedy? Bad things happen in life if we choose to let them become bad, or we can take the cycle of life, because good, nothing. I'm one of those. I believe in that philosophy that there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that's happened has happened before for a reason, and it's going to happen to me too. And so, since I can't really, I heard someone recently say everything that we have right now in 100 years is going to be gone, to rust, wiped out, forgotten about. Only thing remaining is our relationships. So if I can make a positive impact on another person, and they can make a positive impact on another person, that's kind of a legacy you can leave. So I'm not so focused on my accumulation of stuff as it is my desire to help other people. So whatever we do, are you making a positive impact, footprint on the next generation? That's my goal, and that's what I help other people, or I'm hoping to help other people do as well. Because now I'm casting a bigger net than what I can accomplish on my own.
It's all about paying it forward. It's what it sounds like.
Yes, for sure.
Well, I want to say, everybody, I thank you for tuning into our show. If you would like to be a guest on the Business Amplified show, or if you know somebody that could be a great guest, just go ahead and go to go ahead and schedule a 15-minute pre-interview. That's going to be at businessamplified.net/pre-interview, no dash. Again, businessamplified.net/pre-interview. Now, Richard, again, I want to say thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for sharing these great insights, and the fact that you could go from the working the corporate world to and then following your passion, working as an entrepreneur, as well as the fact that you're doing it virtually. You don't have to have a brick and mortar business, even in a business that's usually looked at as being a brick and mortar business.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, being open to opportunities. Just keep moving forward.
Well, that's well said. Thank you very much, Richard. And guys, I want to say again, thank you for joining us today. And until next time, be amazing.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another empowering episode of Business Amplified with Kevin A. Dunlap.
If you found value in today's insights, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share the podcast.
Keep amplifying your business. And remember, your success journey is our inspiration.
Until next time on Business Amplified, go out there and make your business thrive.